it from me. There is an agenda on the website for anyone who's online. The lovely Jack is going to read out any questions that you pop in, so if you do want to participate, then you can do that. The other thing is, the people online will only hear you if you use a microphone. So for the sake of the people online, do try and wait until the microphone reaches you to say your bit, and I'm going to ask all the speakers to use theirs, and as you saw, this will pass back and forth, so do, hand it over to one another, and be conscious of not hogging said microphone. And we'll all get a wee say, and Jack, I'm going to leave this one with you. And over to you. This might sit central.
Yes. Yeah, so I should probably just kind of like give a vague sense of like what's been going on with the anti-austerity stuff vaguely recently. I'm part of a sort of small collective of people called ECAP. Is it fair to call it a collective, Mike?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I feel like that's the more accurate description, which stands for Edinburgh Coalition Against Poverty. We've been involved in benefit stuff for quite a while. I like to describe it as sort of like angry citizens' advice to a certain extent. We help people get benefits, and then that sometimes doesn't work, and then we sometimes help people disrupt the local job centre or go after the MP or something funny. So that's interesting. We had a thing recently where one of the job centres at High Rigs was breaking the law. It was denying people transitional protections, because when you moved from, I believe it was ESA or was it JSA? ESA, yes. People were not getting the financial protections and so on they were supposed to get when they get transferred to universal credit. So we basically we had a big protest outside that job centre. They stopped the denial of transitional protections to claimants. I think it was all job centres after that. On this particular issue. So that was good. Just move my stuff. Yeah, let's see Lorenzo. Yeah, I mean, so we've had a big protest outside of Ian Murray's office, Ian Murray MP, because of this terrible benefit cuts they're doing. Boo, yes, sorry. And sorry, I vaguely had something I was supposed to say, but now I'm actually here. It's going out my head. Oh yeah, and we like the idea of universal basic stuff. I mean, we were talking about that at ECAP as like a very long-term utopian sort of goal, because the benefit system was crap. But I think at the end of the day, if they just gave us universal basic stuff, so it can, we couldn't get inflated away from us like everything else, that would be quite a nice thing to do. So the current cuts are cuts to PIP, if I'm right, and they'll be going to be passed, I think, in maybe a month and a half or 2 months. It's not scheduled on the parliamentary agenda yet. This is going to cut PIP in England. Well, why does this affect us? We're in Scotland. We have adult disability payment, not a personal independence payment. Well, the funding for ADP is through something called the Barnett formula, tied to PIP. So if they cut PIP in England, it's going to essentially cut the same policies funding in Scotland. Now this is kind of bad, but it's also quite good, because it means if they do pass this cuts in England, they don't automatically transfer to Scotland. And so we have much longer to kind of fight them on that particular issue, and also the Parliament's really close. And in my personal opinion, this is a bit of a hot take, but I think a bunch of these, benefit reforms are actually illegal under international law. Because the UN Charter of Human Rights in Article 22 and Article 25 basically says, every individual has a right to social security and a dignified standard of life, even if they're disabled, and we're not getting that. So I think all these cuts they're making are illegal, and they should stop doing it. And when we insisted the cuts they were making to, the transitional protections, when we went after that and we insisted these are illegal, they got really scared, and they're breaking the rules. They want to say illegal, but we made them illegal by saying it, if you know what I mean. So there's a great power on insisting in that. And I think just generally in terms of the benefit system, there's been this terrible thing of basically, I think our civil rights, to a certain degree, of, for lack of a better word, like a right to poor people's right to get representation as court, has been destroyed by cuts to legal aid. Like a lot of the judgments you get, like you can be so they recently passed this anti-fraud bill, and in that bill, along with a lot of other legislation around benefits and disability benefits, if they think you're defrauding the DWP, they can just take money away from you without a trial. You know, they can essentially just seize your money. They can take directly from your employer, directly from your bank account, up to I think it's about 40 or 50% of your income. And we know people have been getting, you know, AI scans on their bank account, and they've, you know, been trying to reclaim like 40,000 from someone with basically no proof. And you know, I'm not going to talk about this guy's stuff, but I mean, you know, it's just awful. And I think, you know, the Labour Party go on about the rule of law a lot, and if this rule of law is not protecting our ability to get houses, not protecting our ability to have food, not protecting our ability to live a safe and on, you know, a dignified life with heating and like some treats occasionally, like what good is this, you know, stuff they're doing? What good is all these laws? And I'm really annoyed at the minute because it took me like a year to get a PTSD diagnosis, and now they're getting rid of the benefit for it. So what's the point of that? Who's doing no recourse to public funds, I think, or excluding, I think? Are you okay just doing it if you're Oh yeah.
Hi, I'm Ruby. My pronouns are he, they. So I only agreed to do this like half an hour ago, so I'm not very prepared. That's alright though. So to give you an overview, no recourse to public funds is a condition on immigration that applies to different groups of immigrants. So, and what it essentially means is, as it says on the tin, you cannot get public funds. You just cannot apply for them, you're not eligible for them, you will not get them. And so if I pull it up, I'll just give you some examples of which funds this means. So for example, by Social Security Scotland, we have the adult disability payment, the carers allowance supplement, child disability payment, child winter heating assistance, that's a big one. And then winter heating payment itself, job start payment. So these are some examples of public funds. There's also stuff like universal credit, income support, housing benefit, and also most importantly, this also includes homelessness funds. So, you know, if there's a charity that gives homelessness aid as money, you know, you actually can't access that because if it counts as a public fund, then you can't actually get that. And now, if I tell you who actually counts as this, I think one of the biggest groups who do not have recourse to public funds are international students. So as a student on a student visa, it says very clearly on all my documentation and my visa itself that I do not have recourse to public funds. So if as a student, you know, I'm disabled, but I can't get disability benefits, if I am homeless tomorrow, then I can't get like homelessness aid. So this is not just students as well. So this is also people who, for example, applied to like if they applied for asylum and the asylum got denied, or if they're here as, you know, illegally, and so it's a lot of people. So it's I will probably have to cross check this, but it is around 2.6 million people in the UK who are not getting recourse to public funds, and I'm just gonna check. So here's who can access public funds. So if they have one of the following types of immigration status: indefinite leave to enter or remain, unless they are an adult dependent relative, right of abode, exempt from immigration controls such as Irish citizens, refugees, humanitarian protection, leave to remain granted under the Ukraine scheme, leave to remain granted under the family or private life rules, when they've been accepted by the Home Office as being destitute or at risk of imminent destitution. Peach settled status granted under the EU settlement scheme or a pending EU settlement scheme application. And then leave to remain granted to a person who has received a conclusive grounds decision that they are a victim of trafficking or modern day slavery, and then destitution, domestic violence concession, and unaccompanied asylum seeking child leave. So there are some immigration statuses that will get you this, but I think the ones that are really common, for example, the student visa, which is, I mean, we live in Edinburgh, there's a huge student population here. As James was saying, it's like the ability to live a dignified life and get access to, like we're paying taxes. Like I'm working and I'm paying taxes. When I enter this country, I'm paying the visa charge, I'm paying the NHS surcharge, which has increased more and more like every year. So we are paying money, but we're not getting. So it's just like unpaid, like it's like you're paying taxes, but you're not getting the benefits from paying those taxes, which is, I think it's completely, what would you say, like scandalous, like it's ridiculous to end up paying so much taxes and like the only thing you're getting is a pension. So there are some ways that some groups do get benefits in the sense that there's usually hardship funds at universities and you can apply for that, and that is not a public fund. But then of course there's only limited amount you can get, and there's only like, it's very, I would say it's really up to the discretion of the university if they believe you when you say that you're struggling. Like for example, last year I applied for the hardship fund from the University of Edinburgh to help with rent debt. So they paid off my rent debt, which is to essentially say they just crossed it off, right? Because it's their own money. But they didn't actually give me any money to help with the cost of living. So just weeks after that, I was in a crisis where, I couldn't keep up with food costs. So it's really like, and then I fell into the same situation again this year where again, like they didn't give me any actual money, like not even a pound, not even like 10 pence. So it's really difficult to like manage without these things. It forces you to work, and and even when you're working, there's not a guarantee that you're earning a livable wage. And I think something that I have noticed with the leftist scene here in Edinburgh is that nobody is really talking about immigrants. It's not even that people are talking about immigrants in like a way that's like, okay, we've started the discussion. This discussion has just not started at all. And it's like, I want you to think of, anybody that you know who is like an international student or here or like any sort of, schemes that I mentioned that like immigration statuses that are not applicable. They cannot get any benefits from the government. And I think this is a conversation that we really need to be having because it is a state of extreme vulnerability where it's like you are completely dependent on either, any sort of savings or your parents' money or like whatever you have, or you're working, and if you lose your job, or if you can't pay your rent, then you're really, really stuck. And you're really just getting by on like whatever your own community can provide to you, if you can find someone to crash with or anything like that. So, yeah, that is all I have to say.
I feel like it might be more logical to actually step ahead and do yours this week and then do my explain it. Would be okay.
Right, yes, I didn't know that I was doing this until about 20 minutes ago, so you just have to bear with me, but I will be very quick. I'm Sasha, I'm from Crips Against Cuts. It's a new organisation that has kind of grown exponentially in the light of what is going to be happening to disabled people. For anybody who is still saying, and there are plenty of people who are, that I can't believe a Labour government is doing this. Really, can't you? Just look back to what the Blair government did to disabled people. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The people who are in charge of the Labour Party now come from an ideological position of supporting eugenics, and I'm not saying that lightly. And let's be clear, although none of this was in the Labour Party manifesto, Rachel Reeves has been saying since 2014 that this is what she intended to do. She was quite clear and quite honest. Unfortunately, that got glossed over. So now we're in the position where a green paper will be tabled at Westminster, we think now the first week of June, and we know that of the 20 or so proposals in that green paper, it will result in not just thousands of disabled people being pushed in further into poverty or into poverty for the first time. We are talking about millions of disabled people. And I'm going to give you one example. Usually I don't talk about personal experience, but I'm going to talk about my son who lives in sheltered accommodation for young people with learning difficulties and is in receipt of 24-hour, 7 days a week support. That is his level of need. As things stand, his place, his home, is now in jeopardy because he doesn't receive full housing benefit for his placement there. It's a private provider, and because of that, the shortfall in his rent is made up through his disability premium on universal credit and his adult disability payment. Freeze both of them, and there will be a position where his rent won't be frozen, but he will be pushed to the point of very potentially losing his place in sheltered accommodation. That's where we are now. Obviously people are really, really angry, which is why Crips Against Cuts has been formed. There's a lot of crossover between Black Triangle and Disabled People Against Cuts, but there are also lots of new activists coming in. I'm very proud to say that there was an action yesterday in Manchester by Manchester Coalition of Disabled People and also Manchester Disabled People Against Cuts, who basically forced their way into one of these DWP consultation meetings, took it over and actually brilliantly subverted the agenda completely. Now, two things that are coming up. There's going to be an action here on the 7th of June in Edinburgh, still being planned, still top secret, but we're going to get the message out and we are going to zap people who really, really deserve it. Also, remarkably, I'm so pleased to say that at least 5 people who are disabled activists who really know what they're doing have managed to get tickets to the DWP consultation in Glasgow on the 10th of June. So expect fireworks at that, because we're not just going to take this. No way. In the meantime, individual action is going on. Chris Murray, Ian Murray, and tonight Scott Arthur have been targeted. When they'll turn up at their constituency offices, they'll find them covered in posters saying, "Say no to disability cuts." So fuck them all, basically. We're going to absolutely zap the bastards.
Second that motion. Mike, can you explain to the extent you can that big alliance thing we're part of?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not going
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Mike. It's he, him. I'm involved in Edinburgh Coalition Against Poverty. Yeah, and it was great to hear from Sasha about the actions being taken by Crips Against Cuts. I just want to say a wee bit about some links that Edinburgh Coalition Against Poverty has got around Britain in fighting the social security cuts, because it's obviously something we need to organise Britain-wide and also make international links. There isn't currently a proper organised network of all claimants groups around Britain. There has been in the past, and it'd be great to create that again. But we have got some really good links. Hopefully we'll develop really good links with Crips against cuts around Britain. We've already got good links with disabled people against cuts. We've got a really strong network right round Britain with local groups, and I know there's folk here involved in that, so they might want to see more about disabled people against cuts. We've had for a good number of years strong links with a group called Win Visible in London, and Win Visible stands for Women with Visible and Invisible Disabilities, and I'd really encourage people to check them out online. They're a great group. They fight particular women's situations through direct action advocacy, and they're also involved in campaigns and struggles on benefit rights, against care charges, on energy bills, for accessible transport, for the climate, and they're really strong on migrant solidarity. A lot of them are migrants, and really strong on anti-racism and LGBTQI plus solidarity. They do a lot of work on emphasising the vital importance of care work, which often, of course, is unpaid. And Win Visible have been working with a group called Big Brother Watch to oppose the anti-fraud bill that Joe mentioned. I'll try and be as quick as possible. We've also got contact with an independent community-based group called Food and Solidarity. We're based in Newcastle on Tyne, and they've initiated a Britain-wide campaign to fight against child poverty, and they want to do this through a Britain-wide campaign of direct action. And the main demands, I'll just mention them briefly. They started the campaign before the latest announcement of the attacks on disability benefits, so I'm sure they'll be resisting them as well. But they started off with the demands of abolition of no recourse to public funds, and we've already heard about the total injustice for that. They're also demanding the abolition of the two-child benefit limit, and that's a really nasty bit of social security legislation. It means that families on universal credit only get universal credit support for the first two children. For the third and subsequent children, they don't get anything at all. And the Child Poverty Action Group says this tax on siblings is the biggest driver of rising child poverty in the UK today. Amazingly, there is a bit of good news, and that is that the Scottish Government has announced from April 2026 it's going to mitigate the two-child benefit limit. But of course it's still really important to resist it and demand it be abolished UK-wide, because a year's a hell of a long time when you're in poverty, and also we need to show solidarity with people down south. Other major demand of the campaign started by Food and Solidarity is the abolition of the benefit cap, and that potentially applies to many people on universal credit or working age housing benefit. And the benefit cap sets an overall limit on the amount of benefits you can get, even if by their rules you're entitled to a certain amount. They just cap it if you reach a certain figure. So again, that's partially mitigated in Scotland, but it's still really important to struggle for its complete abolition, because the mitigation in Scotland is done by a system called discretionary housing payment, which is not automatic and is quite tricky to go through. And so So it's still really important. So I'll just finish up and say that we think in our future actions it's really vital to work with groups around Britain, and we hope to work with Food and Solidarity and Invisible and Crips Against Cuts and DPAC and all these other groups. So we're not just fighting here, we're fighting with people all around the place. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we're planning to just have a bit of a go round. I think we'll start with this a bit weird because we've got this microphone and we'll just sort of here we'll just switch to the other microphone. But since Tilly seemed to have a point earlier, I'll get started.
I was actually just asking for a wee clarification point for yourself, Ruby, and this was something you actually told me earlier, but that I thought it would be good to mention. You mentioned something about like the NHS charge. What was that?
So the NHS surcharge is a fee that you pay before entering the country to get NHS services. So I came here in October 2023. At that point, for 4 years, I paid around £2,500, but it has since increased. So basically, it calculates a monthly charge against every month that you will be in the UK, and it is a really huge amount. And it is very ironic, considering that the NHS constantly says that it's underpaid, but also we are paying so much money to the NHS even before we step foot here. And even after paying it, it's not even necessarily true that you will get good service by the NHS. And it doesn't include your dentist. So you have to pay for your dentist.
Do you want to explain the purpose of the go round? Do you want people to introduce themselves or?
Just go around saying that the customer affected you. We've got about 20 minutes to do that. So then we'll sort of have a discussion about. Then we'll have a break and discussion about how we can actually resist the cuts. Oh no, you're not so
I've not personally been affected by the benefits cuts because I've not managed to get on benefits yet, despite being relatively disabled in my humble opinion. But one of my best friends was, up until a few days ago, receiving something like £400 a month because she's a mother of a young child, and she just got the notification last week that her benefits will be paused and she will have to give back the money she's received because she has an amount of money in savings, which is just, to me, that seems, obviously there are people who don't have money in savings and need benefits, but it is just a disgusting thing to do to a young mother and like barely crossing the line of poverty. Anyway, that is all I have.
Actually, we've already spoken, so we'll come maybe coming back to Aiden,
I'm Jill. I'm a benefits advisor with a housing association, and really we're just as need and see what's happening within Edinburgh and climate as it is.
brings the next question's coming to you again, but sorry, no, we should have another.
I'm Bill. I am the ex-chair of the Poverty and Inequality Commission for Scotland and former head of policy for Inclusion Scotland, a disabled people's organisation. And I've been working with John Ricardo from Black Triangle and with DPAC over the proposed cuts to disability benefits, and really I'm along tonight to find out what we're going to do about it. and do we want to hear that discussion? So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'll just pass it on.
Yeah, Stephen, it's not clear to me yet how the benefit cuts will affect me yet, but I'm here to campaign against them.
Hi, I'm Sasha. I don't know, the benefit cuts seem to be already, there seems to be loads of cuts in, for example, council spending. I live in Dunby Dykes, and we in one of the high rises, and one of the lifts hasn't been working for over a year, and the other lift wasn't working for almost 2 weeks. And that's a 10-story building. Luckily, the weather was quite good because the stairs can be very treacherous. When people from the community try to contact the council, they got often just ignored. The council even ignored the local MP, saying it wasn't really in his jurisdiction. So, I mean, this affects people with disabilities, you know, I mean, like, luckily, as I say, luckily nothing happened, but on one hand, the council are saying they're investing money in fire protection and things like this, but surely if there's no lifts working, you know, I mean, and there is, I mean, most people with mobility issues are generally housed in the first 4 floors, but that's not always the case. There's, as people get older, people, you know, so I don't know, just the council seem to be really not caring about their citizens, and are much more interested. I mean, this is while they're spending £350,000 on advertising tourism in Edinburgh. And so if you speak to a lot of activists who are in thing with the council, they'll say that the council are kind of in the main kind of lobbyists to them are Edinburgh or the university, but more as a kind of cash thing, and the tourist industry. So I don't know.
I'm Mark. I've not got much to say right now, but yeah, just terrifying kind of following updates in the news, and I'm glad there's a group in Edinburgh who's organising against them.
Hello, second that, I'm Hannah, she, they. I'm, very dependent on benefits, and I guess I just want to get involved.
Hi, I'm Aya, she, her. I'm pretty reliant on benefits as well. Just last year I was stuck in pretty horrible living situation where I was spending pretty much my whole adult disability payment on heating, and I was pretty much left with absolutely nothing. The council, like yourself said, I'm in East Lothian, by the way, so it's safe to say out there, just didn't really care, and if benefits get cut anymore, it's just unlivable for me, and I could go on and on, but that's all I've really got to say right now.
So, hello everyone, I'm Panos. To be honest, I'm fairly new to the UK. I'm an immigrant that just came here some months ago, but then, thank you. But then I saw this advertisement for this event, the gathering meeting of the rallies on Saturday, and really got my attention. It is really something that I'm used to, getting with the people together locally, organizing, discussing and fighting against austerity since I come from Greece, and against benefit cut is something that I do mostly all my adult life. So that's from me.
Would it be possible to get like antibacterial wipes on these microphones? Because I realise a lot of people have been taking their masks off to speak into them, and then we're passing along, and it just doesn't really seem very hygienic. Thank you. Hi, my name is Asha, he, him. Like many disabled people, I was stuck in the situation where I was living with my family, and then my family became very bitter towards me because of the cost. and that quickly became abusive. And then I realized that, oh, I can't, run away from home or do anything like that, because back in Belgium, where my family lives, my medication is just too expensive. So, I came here to Scotland under the guise of studying with the hope to get on the disability system and finally have some independence. So the fact that this is happening whilst I finally seem to have, some freedom on the horizon is quite disheartening. I guess I just came here because I wanted to feel less alone and find some community. Yeah.
Can you hear me for this? I'm Aiden, you him. I've stayed in Edinburgh most of my life, and I grew up with a family that would constantly complain about the council, rightfully so. Especially the fact that this council keeps going in debt because it keeps subsidising tourism and advertising constantly. That's where the profit is. So I guess I don't have much to say about it. It's just, it's absolutely appalling, and absolutely needs to be drastic radical action against what these arseholes are doing.
Hey, I'm Jack. I'm a member of ECAP. I've got long COVID at the moment, and I'm currently being supported by my family. But if I need to start claiming disability benefits, then these cuts will obviously start to affect me quite directly, particularly if I go and move back down to England. But yeah, here today to work out how we can build on all the energy from the demo outside the Ian Murray's office. And help people have to say.
Hi, I'm Pete, he, him. I'm not directly affected by the benefits cut to London, although I've been a carer for a while. And one of the things I just want to chip into the discussion, because I think it intersects with what a number of people have said already, is this is all on top of an extremely dysfunctional care system, particularly in Edinburgh, which is probably the most privatised place in Scotland. And in that context, the impact is going to be even greater, I think, because it's not that things are fine just now and the benefits are going to damage things. It's that things are desperately difficult for a very large number of people already, and this is going to turn the screw a great deal more. And I think I've edited the Another Edinburgh is Possible website for the last 2-3 years, and collected some useful information about that. But I think there's a desperate need for this kind of meeting and to expand this kind of solidarity and joint working to be able to take this on.
That wasn't from my pocket, that was from that.
Hi, my name is Cassie Aiden. So I'm also international student. I guess international student is like we don't get benefit, and the working condition is really bad. So like I'm Chinese, and if you ever go to eat in Chinese restaurant, you should ask how much they pay the server. Like it's kind of around 6, 7, and 8 pound, per hour. I guess.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm a benefit claimant myself. I receive adult disability payment, and I've had to have a fight with Social Security Scotland to actually get the mobility component, which I've just recently got. I also represent trade union members who administer welfare benefits, including universal credit, employment and support allowance has been mentioned as well. So I'm on the Scottish Executive Committee of the Public and Commercial Services Union. I just want to make it absolutely clear that our union is absolutely opposed to all of these benefit cuts. And what a lot of people don't realise is a lot of our members receive these benefits. People don't think that people who administer universal credit actually have to claim universal credit, but that's absolutely true because our members are so poor. And so what we want to do, we want to work with organisations such as Disabled People Against the Cuts and other organisations, other trade unions, and you know, in that spirit, I'm very pleased to be at this meeting here, and you know, just want people to understand that, you know, we're opposed to the benefit cuts as well. I did attend the Scottish Trade Union Congress last week, and there was a motion carried opposing the benefit cuts as well, to put pressure obviously on the Westminster Parliament, but also to put pressure on the Scottish Parliament, because what the first speaker said was absolutely right in terms of the cuts to the personal independence payment. It's not directly going to affect Scotland, but through the Barnett formula, it has a real threat of affecting the adult disability payment. And I think one of our demands has to be on the Scottish Government not to pass on the cuts.
Mike. Oh, sorry, I was having trouble processing you for
Hi, my name's Graeme. He, him. I help out sometimes with the Edinburgh Coalition Against Poverty Stalls, and just to back up what Steve's just said, you know, time and time again, you know, you get chatting to folk, and basically, you know, they might be working in this particular situation, but they're on benefits too. You know, you've got folk who are going to work, and then the next once finished work, they go to the food bank. And so far, the only thing that's affected me has basically been losing the winter fuel payment, because I've got a small additional pension from my work, so I can't basically. I'm now rules tested, so that winter fuel payment is gone. And the other thing about that is the fact that most of our heating, most of our electricity bill actually goes on paying to actually heat our flat, because it was built over 100 years ago, and there is no joined up scheme, it would seem anywhere, to actually get these houses properly insulated. You know, so like you're losing from both directions. In fact, three if you join in climate change.
Hello, my name's Gordon, him. I'm a member of ECAP. I've been a member for over 10 years. I've been helping to support people who are making claims for benefits and people who are already claiming benefits if they get into problems with them. So I've had some direct experience of those issues. I've also been a carer myself for a disabled family member, so I've seen how they're affected as well by changes in regulations and schemes, and I can talk about that later. Thanks.
Shane's there, as I mentioned. Hi everyone, my name's Lorenzo, he, him pronouns. I won't be affected by benefits cuts because I won't get a diagnosis of my disability for who knows how many years, because, you know, wait lists are really long. Anyway, I'm mostly here because I work on, I'm a researcher at the university, and I work on the system called Open Banking and its next evolution, which is called Open Finance. And people in this, so if you're on the ECAP list, you might have heard of this because things kindly shared that's it. Anyway, the people in this financial world love to say how the systems they're working on are actually increase financial access, but they don't really say exactly what that means. And it's mostly about, really it's about trying to increase the pool of people that can get loans, even if they have poorer credit scores. But surely getting people into more debt can't be the solution. So I'm really interested in getting any idea from you on how we could use increased access to people's financial data to actually organize and try to fight poverty. So if anyone has any questions or thoughts or ideas, please come talk to me after this.
Alright, my name's Luna, and I'm not going to be directly affected by cuts. I'm not a claimant. Currently working and a uni student. But I guess I'm here basically just to say if there's one thing I learned from growing up in Northern Ireland, politicians won't stop until we stop them. And I think what's been said around the room quite a lot of basically fuck the bastards is true. We can't sit back and watch them pass bills like these and cut benefits to people after killing 160,000 people through austerity. We just have to put a stop to it, end of whatever way we can.
Well, I didn't say anything. It's just asked. Hiya, my name's Tilly, she, her. And I'm on the Universal Credit now. I just got a housing association flat, which I'm awfully happy about, but because I was almost homeless, because my landlord wanted to put the rent up, and you know, like, you know, decided to kick us out with a daffy excuse, but like, you know, so I'm not getting disability benefit, but I've been unemployed for a good couple of years now, and the longer you stay unemployed, the harder it is to get a bloody job. And then also just like what I'm particularly worried about with these cuts is my mum. You know, she's on disability. And she's not going to qualify under the cuts, and I don't know where she's going to get the bloody money because she's got her man staying with her now, but like he can't afford to pay for two folk, especially with him about to retire. And I'm awfully worried about her for that, and I'm awfully worried about, you know, myself and especially my community as like in the queer community, because half of us queers are all fucking disabled because. At the end of the day, when you're living your life and the whole country is discriminating against you, well, that has its toll on your brain and it has its toll on your body. And so you see a lot more queer folks by population that are disabled in the brain or in the body than you do with folks that aren't on account of they've got all these pressures against them. And that's only going to get worse now, because the government's basically declared war on poofs, you know, it's basically fucking declared war on fucking trannies. And I'm awfully worried that with this new stuff that they're putting in the Supreme Court and that, I'm awfully worried that basically we're going to see a bunch of unemployed LGBT folk as businesses have more jurisdiction to discriminate against them without getting in trouble. And then all they folk who are already, by the way, having to go through ridiculous problems with the NHS if they're wanting to transition or whatever, all they folks, they're going to be signing on the benefits, and they might get it, they might not get it, but and those that aren't already in receipt of disability benefits are in danger of losing them or not getting them. And I think genuinely it's going to have a disproportionate effect on that population of people on account of like they're already very vulnerable folk. And in the same way, you know, I think genuinely like with this, with these bills in general, they're going to have a disproportionate effect on groups of people that the government doesn't like. And I think, to what you were saying, I think that's eugenics. You know, I think that's eugenics when you're trying to get rid of a group of people because you didn't like them. And that's what these government policies are.
Yeah, I think we'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and discuss what the hell are we going to do about it.